In the center of class, the alien commander threw a challenge. The human girl never even blinked once. Part 1. The Arrival. The morning sun of planet Nexus Prime came through the tall windows of the Galactic Academy. The light was orange, not yellow like Earth's sun. It made everything look warm and strange at the same time. Inside Classroom 7, students from 12 different species sat in their seats. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had skin of blue or green or gray. And in the back corner, sitting quietly with her hands folded on her desk, was Yuna. She was human, one of only 3 humans in the entire academy. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. Her uniform was clean and pressed. Her face showed nothing, no fear, no excitement, no worry. She simply sat and waited for the lesson to begin. The classroom was large. It had seats that went up like stairs, so everyone could see the center where the instructor would teach. Today's lesson was supposed to be about tactical planning. Instructor Hana, also human, stood at the front checking her notes. She was older than Yuna by 15 years and had worked hard to get this teaching position. Humans were still new to the galactic community. They had only made first contact 20 years ago. Many species still did not trust them. Many thought they were too young, too weak, too primitive. Yuna did not care what they thought. She had come to this academy to learn. She had come to prove that humans belonged among the stars. But she never said this out loud. She simply showed it through her actions, through her silence, through her calm. Next to her sat Tiho. He was also human, a young man with a kind face and worried eyes. He was always worried about something. Today he was worried about the test next week. Last week he was worried about the food in the cafeteria. Tiho was smart but nervous. He looked at Yuna and whispered, "Did you hear the rumors?" Yuna did not turn her head. "What rumors?" "They say a Kelthari commander is coming to the academy today. Some kind of inspection." Now Yuna turned slightly. The Kelthari were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. They had ruled their sector for thousands of years. They were tall, covered in dark green scales, with eyes that glowed yellow in the dark. They believed they were superior to all other species, and in many ways the galaxy let them believe it. "Why would a commander come here?" Yuna asked quietly. Tiho shrugged. "No one knows, but people are scared." Yuna turned back to face the front. "Then let them be scared." The class filled with more students. A Vorian with blue skin and 4 arms took his seat. A small Fenric with golden fur sat near the window. 2 Kelthari students, younger ones still in training, sat in the middle row. They always sat in the middle. They liked to be seen. Instructor Hana clapped her hands. "Good morning, everyone. Today we will study." The door opened. No, it did not just open. It was pushed open with force. The sound echoed through the room like a thunderclap. Every student turned to look. Even the Kelthari students sat up straighter. A figure walked in. He was tall, taller than any Kelthari Yuna had ever seen. His scales were not green but black, like the night sky without stars. His eyes glowed not yellow but deep red. He wore armor that was polished so bright it reflected the orange sunlight. On his chest was a symbol, a circle with 3 claw marks through it, the mark of a commander. Behind him walked 2 guards. They were also Kelthari, large and strong, their hands resting on weapons at their sides. The commander walked to the center of the room. His boots made heavy sounds on the floor. He stopped and looked around slowly. His red eyes moved from face to face. When he looked at the Vorian, the student looked away. When he looked at the Fenric, the small creature lowered its head. When he looked at the 2 Kelthari students, they bowed slightly in respect. Then his eyes found the humans. He stared at Instructor Hana first. She stood frozen, her notes still in her hands. Her face was pale. She had heard stories about this commander. His name was Voss. He was famous for his hatred of weakness. He was famous for his cruelty. "You are the human teacher," Voss said. His voice was deep and cold, like stones grinding together. Hana nodded. Yes, Commander, I am Instructor Hana. How may I help you? Voss did not answer her. Instead, he looked past her up at the seats until his eyes found Yuna. She was still sitting with her hands folded. Her face showed nothing. Her eyes met his directly. She did not look away. She did not blink. Voss tilted his head slightly. This was strange to him. Humans were supposed to be afraid. Every species was afraid of him. He had made sure of that through years of war and conquest. But this small human girl with her simple ponytail and calm face, she looked at him like he was just another person. "What is your name, human?" Voss asked. The room was silent. Tiho held his breath. The other students watched with wide eyes. Yuna stood slowly. She was short compared to Voss. The top of her head would barely reach his chest, but she stood straight with her shoulders back. "My name is Yuna," she said. Her voice was clear and steady. "Yuna," Voss repeated as if tasting the word. "A human name. Tell me, Yuna, do you know who I am?" "You are Commander Voss of the Kelthari Empire. And does that not frighten you?" Yuna considered the question. She thought about it honestly, the way she thought about everything. Then she answered, "No." A sound went through the room. It was the sound of students gasping, of breath being held, of fear spreading like water. No one spoke to Commander Voss like that. No one. But Voss did not seem angry. Instead, something strange happened. He smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator that had found interesting prey. "No," he repeated softly. "How curious, how very curious." He turned to look at the whole class. His voice rose so everyone could hear. "I came here today because I heard this academy was producing weak soldiers. I heard that the standards had fallen. I heard that they were even letting humans attend." He said the word humans like it was something dirty. "I wanted to see for myself if the rumors were true." He paused and let his words settle over the room like a heavy blanket. "And now I see a human girl who claims she is not afraid of me." He turned back to Yuna. His red eyes burned bright. "We shall see about that." The morning light continued to pour through the windows. The class remained frozen in their seats, and Yuna stood alone in the back row, her face calm, her eyes steady, waiting to see what would happen next. She did not know it yet, but her life was about to change forever. In the center of class, the alien commander threw a challenge. The human girl never even blinked once. Part 2, the challenge. The silence in the classroom was heavy. It pressed down on everyone like a weight. Students were afraid to breathe too loud. They were afraid that any small sound might draw Commander Voss's attention to them. Voss stood in the center of the room with his hands behind his back. His two guards remained near the door, their faces blank, their eyes watching everything. The commander's red gaze was still fixed on Yuna, who stood in the back row like a small tree that refused to bend in a storm. "Sit down," Voss finally said to her. Yuna sat. She did it slowly, calmly, like she was choosing to sit rather than following his order. This small act of defiance did not go unnoticed. Voss's eyes narrowed slightly, but he said nothing about it. Instead, he turned to face the whole class. "I have a question for all of you," he announced. His voice filled every corner of the room. "What makes a warrior?" No one answered. The students looked at each other, then looked at the floor. No one wanted to speak. Voss waited. The silence stretched on. Finally, one of the Kelthari students raised his hand. His name was Gorak, and he was the son of an important general. He thought this gave him permission to speak. "Strength," Gorak said proudly. "A warrior is defined by strength." Voss looked at him. "Strength, yes," the Kelthari answer. He did not sound impressed. "What else?" The Vorian student with blue skin and 4 arms spoke next. His voice was soft and careful. "Strategy. A warrior must be smart." "Strategy," Voss repeated. The Vorian answer. "Always thinking, always planning, always hiding behind clever ideas." There was mockery in his voice. No one else spoke. Voss began to walk slowly around the center of the room. His boots made that same heavy sound with each step. It was like a drumbeat counting down to something terrible. "You are all wrong," he said. "Strength can be broken, strategy can fail. Do you want to know what truly makes a warrior?" He stopped walking. He stood completely still. "Fear," he said. "A true warrior is someone who understands fear, who knows how to use it, who knows how to create it in others." He paused. "And who knows how to face it without running away." His red eyes swept across the room once more. They passed over the trembling Fenric, the nervous Vorian, the proud Kelthari students. Then they found Una again. "This human girl says she is not afraid of me," Voss said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I find this very interesting. Either she is lying, or she is too stupid to understand danger, or," he let the word hang in the air, "or she is something else entirely." He walked toward the back of the room. Students pulled their legs in as he passed their rows. No one wanted to be touched by him. No one wanted to be noticed. Voss stopped at the bottom of Una's row. Tiho, who sat next to her, was shaking slightly. His face had gone pale, and small drops of sweat appeared on his forehead. "You," Voss said, pointing at Tiho, "human male, are you afraid?" Tiho swallowed hard. His voice came out as a whisper. "Yes, Commander." "Good, that is the correct response. Fear keeps you alive. Fear tells you when you are in danger." Voss turned to Una. "But your friend here feels no fear. How strange, how very strange." Una met his gaze. Her dark eyes were like still water. There was no anger in them, no challenge, no emotion at all. She simply looked at him the way someone might look at rain falling outside a window. "I did not say I feel no fear," Una said quietly. "I said I am not afraid of you." The room went even more silent, if that was possible. Instructor Hana at the front of the room closed her eyes briefly, as if praying for this moment to pass. Voss leaned closer to Una. His face was now only an arm's length from hers. She could see every scale on his skin. She could see the way his red eyes seemed to glow from inside like hot coals. She could smell something strange on him, like metal and smoke. "Explain," he commanded. Una did not lean back. She did not look away. "Fear is a response to danger," she said. Her voice remained steady. "You are dangerous, I know this. But knowing something is dangerous and being controlled by that knowledge are two different things." She paused. "I choose not to be controlled." For a long moment, Voss did not move. He stared at her like she was a puzzle he could not solve. Then slowly, he straightened up and stepped back. "Choice," he said thoughtfully. "The human believes fear is a choice." He turned and walked back to the center of the room. When he reached it, he spun around to face the class again. This time, there was something different in his expression. It was not quite respect, but it was close to curiosity. "I came here to test this academy," Voss announced, "to see if it produces warriors or weaklings, and now I have decided how I will test it." He raised one hand. One of his guards stepped forward and handed him a small device. Voss pressed a button, and a holographic image appeared in the air above his palm. It showed a fighting arena, a wide circle surrounded by energy barriers. "In 2 hours, we will use the Academy's combat simulation chamber," Voss said. "I will offer a challenge. Any student who can last 3 minutes against one of my personal guards in hand-to-hand combat will earn my respect. They will be marked as a true warrior. Their species will be honored." He closed his hand, and the holographic image disappeared. "But if no one accepts, or if everyone who accepts fails, then I will tell the Galactic Council that this academy is worthless, that it should be closed, that the species who send their children here are too weak to deserve a place in our empire." Murmurs spread through the class. Students whispered to each other in worried voices. Close the academy. This was their future. This was everything they had worked for. Gorak, the Kelthari student, raised his hand again. "Commander, I will accept your challenge." Voss looked at him with something like pity. You are Kelthari, my guards are Kelthari. There is no honor in fighting your own kind. The challenge is for the other species. Gorek's face fell. He sat back in his seat, embarrassed. The Vorian student spoke up. Commander, with respect, your guards are trained warriors. We are students. The match would not be fair. Fair? Voss laughed. It was a cold, hard sound. War is never fair. Life is never fair. Do you think your enemies will wait until you are ready? Do you think they will fight you on equal terms? He shook his head. If you cannot face unfair challenges, you do not deserve to survive. No one else spoke. The weight of the situation pressed down on everyone. Someone had to accept the challenge or the academy would be closed. But anyone who accepted would almost certainly lose. Voss's guards were famous throughout the galaxy. They were not just soldiers, they were weapons in living form. Voss waited. His red eyes moved slowly across the room. No volunteers, he said. How disappointing. Then his eyes stopped on Yuna. What about you, human girl? You say you are not afraid of me. Are you also not afraid of my guards? The entire class turned to look at Yuna. Tiho grabbed her arm. His grip was tight, desperate. Don't, he whispered urgently. Please don't. Instructor Hana stepped forward. Commander, she is just a student. She has no combat training beyond basic classes. This would not be fair. I told you, Voss interrupted coldly. I do not care about fair. He pointed directly at Yuna. Human, will you accept my challenge? Will you face my guard in the arena? Or will you prove that your species is as weak as everyone believes? The room held its breath. Yuna slowly removed Tiho's hand from her arm. She stood up from her seat. Her movements were calm and deliberate. She walked to the end of her row and began to descend the steps toward the center of the room. Yuna, no, Tiho called out. She did not stop. She did not look back. She walked down until she stood directly in front of Commander Voss. She had to look up to meet his eyes. He was so much taller than her, so much bigger, so much more powerful. But she looked at him without flinching, without blinking, without fear. I accept your challenge, she said. Voss smiled that predator's smile again. Good, he said. Very good. In 2 hours, human, we will see what you are truly made of. He turned and walked toward the door. His guards followed. Just before he left, he paused and looked back at Yuna one more time. Try not to die too quickly, he said. It would be boring. Then he was gone. The door closed behind him, and immediately the classroom exploded into noise. Students talked over each other, some in shock, some in anger, some in fear. Tiho rushed down to Yuna and grabbed her shoulders. Why, he demanded, why did you do that? Yuna looked at him calmly. Because someone had to, she said simply. And then she walked out of the classroom to prepare for the fight of her life. In the center of class, the alien commander threw a challenge. The human girl never even blinked once. Part 3, the arena. The combat simulation chamber was located in the basement of the Galactic Academy. It was a massive room, large enough to hold 500 people in the viewing area alone. The arena in the center was a perfect circle, 50 meters across, surrounded by shimmering blue energy barriers that could stop any weapon. Above it, floating platforms held cameras that would record everything. Today, the viewing area was full. Word had spread quickly through the academy. A human girl had accepted Commander Voss's challenge. A first-year student with no special training was going to fight one of the most dangerous warriors in the Kelthari Empire. Some students came to watch because they were curious. Some came because they were worried. And some came because they wanted to see a human fail. Yuna stood in the preparation room on the east side of the arena. The room was small and bare, just gray walls, a bench, and a mirror. She looked at herself in the mirror. She was still wearing her academy uniform, the dark blue jacket with silver buttons, the matching pants, the simple black shoes. Not exactly fighting clothes. The door opened behind her. Instructor Hana walked in. Her face was tight with worry. Dark circles had appeared under her eyes in just the past 2 hours. "You don't have to do this," Hana said immediately. "I've been speaking with the academy director. We can find another way. We can." "There is no other way," Yuna said quietly. She did not turn from the mirror. "You heard him. Someone has to accept or the academy closes." "Then let someone else accept." Hana's voice cracked with emotion. "One of the Vorians or the Fenrics. Or they are all afraid, and they should be." Yuna finally turned to face her instructor. "But I am not doing this because I am brave, Teacher Hana. I am doing this because it needs to be done." Hana stared at her. She had known Yuna for 6 months now, ever since the human girl arrived at the academy. In all that time she had never seen Yuna show strong emotion. Not happiness, not sadness, not anger. The girl was like still water, calm and deep and impossible to read. "Do you even know how to fight?" Hana asked. "My father taught me some things when I was young. On our colony world, everyone learns to protect themselves. The land was harsh. The animals were dangerous." Yuna paused. "But I am not a trained warrior. You are right about that." "Then how can you possibly survive 3 minutes against a Kelthari guard?" Yuna smiled slightly. It was the first time Hana had ever seen her smile. "I have a plan," Yuna said. "It is not a complicated plan, but I think it will work." Before Hana could ask more questions, the door opened again. Tiho rushed in, breathing hard. He had been running. "I brought what you asked for," he said, holding out a small bag. Yuna took it and looked inside. She nodded once. "Thank you, Tiho." "Yuna, please." Tiho's eyes were red. He had been crying, though he was trying to hide it. "I've been doing research. The guard you're fighting, his name is Drow. He's won 47 official combat matches. He's never lost. He's killed 6 people in the arena. Legal kills, all of them, but still." "I know," Yuna said calmly. "You know, and you're still going to fight him." "Yes." Tiho opened his mouth to argue more, but Yuna placed a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was gentle. "Tiho, you are a good friend. The best friend I have made since coming here, but I need you to trust me now. Can you do that?" Tiho's lip trembled, then slowly he nodded. "Good." Yuna removed her hand. "Now both of you need to leave. I must prepare." Hana and Tiho exchanged looks. There was nothing more they could say. They walked to the door together. "Yuna," Hana said, pausing at the doorway. "Whatever happens today, I want you to know I am proud of you. You represent humanity well." Yuna nodded once. "Thank you, Teacher Hana." Then they were gone, and she was alone. Yuna opened the bag Tiho had brought. Inside were simple things: a roll of white tape, a small jar of healing balm, and a piece of cloth. She began to wrap the tape around her hands and wrists, covering her knuckles, protecting her bones. It was something her father had taught her long ago. "If you must fight," he had said, "protect what is most likely to break." She worked slowly and carefully. The tape wound around and around. When she was finished, she flexed her fingers. Good, tight but not too tight. She removed her academy jacket and folded it neatly. Underneath, she wore a simple white shirt. She tucked the shirt into her pants and tightened her belt. Then she used the piece of cloth to tie her hair back more securely. No loose strands, nothing that could get in her eyes. She looked at herself in the mirror one more time. She did not look like a warrior. She was small and thin. Her arms were not muscular. Her face was soft. Anyone looking at her would see a young woman, barely more than a girl, who had no business being in a fighting arena. But Yuna knew something that others did not. She knew what humans were made of. A bell chimed. A voice came through the speakers in the preparation room. "The match will begin in 5 minutes. Combatants, please proceed to the arena." Yuna took a deep breath, then another. Then she walked to the door and pushed it open. The walk to the arena was short, just a corridor that led to a gate of light. Beyond the gate, she could see the circle of the fighting area. Beyond that, she could see the packed viewing stands. Hundreds of faces watching. Hundreds of eyes waiting. Commander Voss sat in a special box above the arena, looking down like a king watching his entertainment. His two remaining guards stood behind him. His face showed nothing. On the other side of the arena, another gate of light opened. A figure stepped through. Dral. He was massive. Even for a Kelthari, he was huge. His arms were as thick as Yuna's entire body. His scales were dark gray, almost metallic, covering muscles that looked like they were carved from stone. His eyes were yellow and empty, the eyes of someone who had killed many times and felt nothing about it. He wore only simple fighting pants. His chest was bare, showing scars from past battles. Some of the scars were small, some stretched across his entire torso. He was proud of those scars. They proved he was a survivor. Drow looked across the arena at Yuna. His lips pulled back, showing teeth that were slightly pointed. "This is my opponent," he called out, his voice booming through the chamber. "This small human," he laughed. "Commander, you waste my time." "Do not underestimate her," Voss called back from his box. "She has interesting eyes." Drow snorted. "I will try not to break her too quickly." Yuna walked to the center of the arena. Her steps were steady and even. She stopped when she reached the middle, then turned to face Drow. The distance between them was about 20 meters. In the stands, Tiho gripped the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. Beside him, Instructor Hana clasped her hands together, almost like she was praying. Around them, students from a dozen species whispered and pointed. "She's going to die," someone said. "She's so small," another added. "Humans are stupid," a Kelthari student muttered. "They don't know their place." A tone sounded through the arena. A mechanical voice announced, "The challenge has been set. The human called Yuna must survive for 3 minutes against the Kelthari warrior called Drow. No weapons are permitted. The match ends when the time expires or when one combatant can no longer continue. The match begins in 10 seconds. The countdown started. 10. Drow cracked his neck from side to side. He rolled his massive shoulders. 9. Yuna stood perfectly still. Her arms hung loose at her sides. 8. The crowd leaned forward in their seats. 7. Commander Voss watched with bright red eyes. 6. Drow dropped into a fighting stance, his huge fists raised. 5. Yuna took one slow breath. 4. The arena was silent. 3. 2. 1. The tone sounded again. "Begin." Drow charged. He moved faster than something that big should be able to move. His feet pounded against the arena floor like drums. His arms pumped at his sides. His mouth opened in a roar of rage and power. 20 meters became 15. 15 became 10. 10 became 5. And Yuna never even blinked. She simply watched him come, watched the distance close, watched death rushing toward her with fists like hammers. At the last possible moment she moved. She did not try to block. She did not try to counterattack. She simply stepped to the side, one small step, barely noticeable, and Drow's fist went past her face so close she could feel the wind of it. He stumbled forward, his momentum carrying him past her. He spun around, angry now, and swung again. She stepped again. His fist hit empty air. In the stands, people gasped. Drow roared and attacked with both fists, a flurry of strikes that would have killed anything they touched. Yuna moved between them like water flowing around rocks. Left, right, back, duck, step. Every movement was small and precise. She never ran. She never retreated far. She stayed close to him, always just out of reach. 30 seconds passed. 1 minute. The crowd had gone completely silent. They were watching something they had never seen before. A human girl was dancing with death, and death could not touch her. And through it all, her face remained calm. Her eyes remained steady. She never even blinked once. In the center of class, the alien commander threw a challenge. The human girl never even blinked once. Part 4, The Fight. 1 minute and 30 seconds had passed. Drow was breathing harder now, not from exhaustion. A Kelthari warrior of his training could fight for hours without tiring. No, he was breathing harder from frustration, from anger, from something that felt dangerously close to fear. He had thrown over 50 strikes at the human girl, punches that could crack stone, kicks that could break bones, grabs that could crush metal, and not a single one had touched her. She was always moving, always just out of reach. Her feet barely seemed to touch the ground. When he swung left, she went right. When he reached high, she ducked low. It was like trying to catch smoke with his bare hands. And her eyes, those dark, calm, empty eyes, they never left his face. They watched him the way a scientist might watch an insect, with interest but no emotion, no fear, no respect. Nothing. It was driving him mad. "Stand still," Drow roared. He threw another massive punch. It missed by centimeters. Yuna did not answer. She simply stepped back and waited for his next attack. In the viewing stands, the crowd had started to murmur. This was not what they had expected. They had expected blood. They had expected a quick victory for the Kelthari warrior. They had expected to see a human broken and beaten on the arena floor. Instead, they were watching something impossible. Tiho was crying openly now, tears streaming down his face. But they were not tears of fear anymore. They were tears of wonder. "How is she doing this?" someone asked nearby. "I don't know," another answered. "I've never seen anyone move like that." Instructor Hana was gripping her own hands so hard they hurt. She was starting to understand. She was starting to see what Yuna had meant by a plan. Yuna was not trying to win. She was not trying to hurt Drow. She was simply trying to survive. And to survive, she had become something that could not be hit. 2 minutes passed. Only 1 minute left. Drow stopped his attacks. He stood in the center of the arena, his chest heaving, his yellow eyes burning with rage. Sweat dripped down his gray scales. His muscles trembled with unused energy. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "Why won't you fight?" Yuna circled him slowly, staying exactly 5 meters away. Her breathing was slightly faster than before, but still controlled. Her face was still calm. "I am fighting," she said. It was the first time she had spoken since the match began. "Just not the way you expected." "This is not fighting, this is cowardice. Stand and face me properly." "Why would I do that?" The simple question seemed to catch Drow off guard. He blinked, something Yuna noted but did not comment on. "Because that is how warriors fight," he shouted. "With honor, with strength, face to face." "Those are Kelthari rules," Yuna said quietly. "I am not Kelthari." She kept circling. Drow turned with her, his fist still raised, but he was hesitating now. He did not know what to do. In 47 matches, no one had ever refused to engage him directly. No one had ever simply moved away. In the commander's box above the arena, Voss leaned forward slightly. His red eyes were bright with interest. He had expected the human girl to die in the first 30 seconds. Instead, she was still standing. More than that, she was making his best warrior look foolish. "Interesting," he murmured to himself. "Very interesting." 2 minutes and 30 seconds passed. Drow made a decision. If the human would not come to him, he would not give her any space to escape. He began to advance, not with wild charges, but with careful, measured steps. He spread his arms wide, herding her toward the edge of the arena. Yuna moved back, but the energy barrier was approaching. Soon she would have nowhere to go. The crowd leaned forward. This was it. This was how it would end. Yuna's back touched the barrier. The energy hummed against her shirt, warm and tingling. She was trapped. Drow smiled for the first time since the match began. Now, he said, there is nowhere to run. He stepped forward, raising his right fist for the final strike. It would not be fast. He wanted to savor this moment. He wanted everyone to see the human cornered and helpless. 10 seconds left. Yuna watched him come. Her body was pressed against the barrier. Her hands were at her sides. She looked small and fragile and completely defeated. But her eyes were still calm. Still watching. Still not blinking. Drow threw the punch. It was the strongest punch he had ever thrown. All his frustration, all his anger, all his wounded pride, he put everything into that single strike. And at the last possible moment, Yuna dropped. She did not fall. She did not collapse. She simply bent her knees and let her body fold beneath the punch. Drow's fist hit the energy barrier where her head had been a moment before. The barrier sparked. Energy crackled around his hand. Pain shot up his arm, not serious but shocking, unexpected. He stumbled back with a cry of surprise. Yuna was already moving. She rolled between his legs, came up behind him, and stepped away to the center of the arena. By the time Drow turned around, she was standing exactly where she had started the match. 5 seconds left. Drow roared. He charged at her with everything he had left. 4 seconds. Yuna stepped to the side. 3 seconds. Drow spun and swung again. 2 seconds. She ducked beneath his arm. 1 second. The tone sounded. Time, the match is over. The human called Yuna has survived for 3 minutes. The arena went completely silent. For a moment no one moved, no one spoke, no one seemed to breathe. Then slowly, Yuna straightened up. She looked at Drow, who was standing with his fists still raised, his face twisted with disbelief. Then she looked up at Commander Voss in his box above the arena. "I survived," she said. Her voice was quiet, but in the silence everyone heard it. Drow let out a sound that was somewhere between a scream and a growl. He stepped toward Yuna, his hands reaching for her throat. "This is not over," he shouted. "I will kill you, I will." Drow. The single word cut through the air like a blade. Commander Voss had spoken. His voice was not loud, but it carried absolute authority. Drow froze. His hands trembled in the air, centimeters from Yuna's neck. "The match is over," Voss said coldly. "Step away from the human." For a terrible moment, it seemed like Drow might disobey. His yellow eyes burned with hatred. His muscles tensed with the need for violence. Then slowly he lowered his hands. He stepped back, his shoulders slumped with defeat. "Yes, Commander," he said. The words seemed to cause him physical pain. Voss stood from his seat and looked down at the arena. His red eyes found Yuna, who still stood in the center of the circle. She was breathing harder now, and a thin layer of sweat covered her face. But she had not fallen. She had not broken. She had not begged. She stood tall and looked directly at him, the same way she had in the classroom. And she still did not blink. The crowd began to make noise. First it was whispers, then murmurs. Then, from somewhere in the back of the viewing stands, someone started to clap. It was a single pair of hands, slow and uncertain. Then another pair joined, and another. The clapping spread through the crowd like fire through dry grass. Soon hundreds of students were applauding. They were cheering. They were calling Yuna's name. In the front row, Tiho was laughing and crying at the same time. Instructor Hana had tears running down her face, but she was smiling, really smiling, for the first time since Voss had entered the classroom. "She did it," Tiho said, his voice breaking. "She actually did it." Above the arena, Commander Voss watched the celebration below. His face showed nothing. No anger, no disappointment, no surprise. But his red eyes remained fixed on the small human girl who had done what no one thought possible. She had faced his challenge. And she had won. Now he wanted to know why. Now he wanted to understand. Now he wanted to see just how far this strange, calm, unblinking human could go. The story was not over yet. In fact, it was just beginning. In the center of class, the alien commander threw a challenge. The human girl never even blinked once. Part 5, The Revelation. The cheering continued for several minutes. Students from every species were on their feet, clapping and shouting. For many of them, this was the most exciting thing they had ever seen. A small human girl had stood against a Kalthari warrior and survived. It should not have been possible, but they had all watched it happen with their own eyes. Yuna stood alone in the center of the arena. She did not smile or wave or acknowledge the crowd. She simply waited. She knew it was not over yet. Commander Voss raised one hand. The cheering stopped immediately, as if someone had turned off a switch. When a Kalthari commander raised his hand, everyone obeyed. That was simply how the galaxy worked. Voss began to walk down from his viewing box. There was a staircase that led directly to the arena floor. His boots made that same heavy sound with each step. The crowd watched in silence as he descended. Drow still stood at the edge of the arena. His head was lowered in shame. He had never lost a match before. He had never even come close to losing. And now, in front of hundreds of students from across the galaxy, a human girl had made him look like a fool. Voss walked past him without a glance. The commander stopped when he reached Yuna. He stood directly in front of her, looking down at her small form. 3 minutes, he said. His voice was quiet now, meant only for her ears. You survived for 3 minutes against my best warrior. Tell me how. Yuna looked up at him. You already know how, Commander. You watched the entire match. I watched you move. I watched you dodge. I watched you refuse to engage in direct combat. Voss tilted his head slightly. But I want to understand why. Why did you not try to fight back? Why did you not try to attack? Because I would have lost, Yuna said simply. Drow is stronger than me, faster than me, more skilled than me. If I had tried to fight him the way Kalthari fight, I would be dead now. So you chose to run instead. No, Yuna shook her head slightly. I chose to survive. There is a difference. Voss was silent for a moment. Then he asked, what difference? Yuna took a slow breath. This was the question she had been waiting for. This was why she had accepted the challenge in the first place. Running means giving up, she said. It means accepting defeat and fleeing from it. Surviving means refusing to give up no matter what. It means finding a way to continue when all paths seem closed. She paused. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest. We are not the most intelligent. We have no claws, no scales, no natural weapons, but we are still here. And why is that? Because we do not give up, ever. Yuna's voice was still calm, still steady, but there was something underneath it now, something that had been hidden all along. Our home world tried to kill us for thousands of years. The weather was harsh. The animals were deadly. The plants were poison, and we survived. We adapted. We learned. When we could not outfight something, we outthought it. When we could not outthink it, we simply outlasted it. She took a step closer to Voss. It was a small step, but in that moment it seemed very large. You wanted to see what humans are made of, Commander. You wanted to know if we are weak. Now you have your answer. Voss looked at her for a long time. His red eyes were unreadable. And what answer is that? He asked. Yuna smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen the worst the universe had to offer and had chosen to keep walking anyway. Humans are made of something you do not understand, she said. We are made of refusal, refusal to die, refusal to surrender, refusal to blink when monsters look us in the eye. She paused, then added, You wanted fear, Commander, but humans forgot how to blink at monsters centuries ago. The arena was completely silent. Even the air seemed to have stopped moving. Everyone was listening. Everyone was watching. Voss did not move for several long seconds. Then slowly something changed in his expression. It was not respect, not exactly. It was something closer to recognition. He was seeing Yuna clearly for the first time, not as a human, not as a student, but as something else entirely. "When I entered that classroom this morning," he said, "I expected to find weakness. I expected to find species that did not deserve their place among the stars." He paused. "I was wrong." He turned to face the crowd. His voice rose so everyone could hear. "This human has shown something today that many warriors never learn. She has shown that true strength is not about power. It is not about force. It is about will." He looked back at Yuna. "The will to survive, the will to continue, the will to face any challenge without surrendering your soul." He raised his voice even louder. "I, Commander Voss of the Kelthari Empire, declare that this human has earned my respect. She has proven that her species belongs among the stars, and I will tell the Galactic Council that this academy produces true warriors." The crowd erupted. The cheering was even louder than before. Students were jumping and screaming and hugging each other. In the front row, Tiho collapsed into his seat, overcome with emotion. Instructor Hana stood with her hands pressed to her heart, tears flowing freely down her face. Voss was not finished. He looked at Yuna one more time. "You are young," he said, quiet again. "You have much to learn, but you have something that cannot be taught. You have the spirit of a survivor." He paused. "I will be watching your future with great interest." Yuna nodded once. "Thank you, Commander." Voss turned and began to walk away. His guards fell into step behind him, but before he reached the exit, he stopped and looked back. "One more question, human." "Yes." "During the entire match, you never blinked. Not once. Is this a human ability I was not aware of?" Yuna's smile returned. "No, Commander. I simply chose not to blink. I wanted to see everything clearly. I did not want to miss a single moment." Voss considered this answer. Then, for the first time since entering the academy, he laughed. It was not a cold laugh or a mocking laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had genuinely surprised by something. "You are a strange creature, Yuna the human," he said. "A very strange creature indeed." Then he was gone, and the door closed behind him. The students rushed down from the viewing stands. They surrounded Yuna, patting her back, shaking her hand, asking her questions. She answered when she could, but mostly she simply stood and let them celebrate. Tiho pushed through the crowd and grabbed her in a tight hug. "I can't believe you did it," he said, his voice muffled against her shoulder. "I really can't believe it." "I told you I had a plan," Yuna said. "A plan? That was just standing there and not getting hit." "Exactly." Yuna pulled back and looked at him. "The simplest plans are often the best ones." Instructor Hana finally reached them. She took Yuna's hands in her own and squeezed them gently. "You represented humanity today," Hana said. "You showed the galaxy who we are. I could not be more proud." Yuna nodded. "Thank you, Teacher Hana, but I did not do it for humanity. I did it for myself." Hana smiled. "That is the most human thing you could say." The celebration continued late into the night. Stories of the match spread through the academy and beyond. By morning, every planet in the sector would know about the human girl who faced a Kelthari warrior and did not blink. But Yuna did not stay for the celebration. After an hour, she quietly slipped away from the crowd and walked back to her small room in the student dormitory. She sat on her bed and looked out the window at the orange sun setting over Nexus Prime. She thought about what she had said to Commander Voss, about refusal, about survival, about humans forgetting how to blink at monsters. It was true, all of it, but she had left something out. The real reason she never blinked was simpler than philosophy. It was something her father had taught her when she was a small girl on the colony world, facing her first dangerous animal. "If you blink," he had said, "you might miss the moment when everything changes. Keep your eyes open, Yuna. See the world clearly. And when the monster looks at you, look right back. Show it that you are not prey. Show it that you are something more. Yuna smiled at the memory. Then she lay back on her bed and closed her eyes. Tomorrow there would be more challenges, more obstacles, more monsters to face. That was simply how life worked, but she would face them the same way she had faced Drow. She would move. She would adapt. She would refuse to give up. And she would never, ever blink. The end.